Hello, gang. So in that last video, we were talking about variables. One of the interesting things that came up is scope, and I mentioned that a variable, these let and const variables, have a scope that we can access them in. So this on variable is global in scope. It's not inside any functions, any containing functions. This variable is inside of containing functions, so it's not available out here. We can return that variable, and then it's available out here as the return value of a function. But we haven't talked about functions, so let's talk about functions. Functions in JavaScript are super duper important. And there's multiple ways to declare them. We can create a function we can declare a function by using the function keyword and then have the body of the function be within these curly braces. We can optionally return values and we can bring values in. So now I'm going to add a plus b. But we can also create these functions. And my preferred method by far is to instead use the arrow function syntax, which is going to really make our lives easier. And in this arrow function syntax, what we'll do is just have some parentheses for the input parameters and then an arrow that actually returns what is after the arrow. We can optionally, if we want to do something like declare some variables in this function or make it more elaborate, we can use with arrow functions those brackets. And so we could have a couple of input parameters and have some brackets, and then we can return from inside those brackets. So I could actually add another variable inside of here that would be available inside this function. And we can do anything we want inside this function. And we'll often do a lot of things. But let's look at a function that I find useful. And this is a function that is going to get a random color. So we've been talking a little bit abstractly about functions. This is a function that doesn't take anything in. It just returns a random hexadecimal color. And that's nifty, and there's a lot of nifty stuff in here. And I think it'd be great to learn all that stuff, but we're not going to do that in this video because I'm trying to keep this short. All you need to know is this gets a random color. You can use this anywhere in JavaScript. It gets a random color you can use anywhere in JavaScript. And that means you can reuse this chunk of code that you don't even necessarily understand, but it gets a random color. And that's super powerful. That's why we write functions. We write functions so our code is cleaner. We write functions so we can share them with other people and they can do stuff that they maybe don't even understand. And we use functions that other people write all the time. And we don't necessarily need to know everything about how they work. We just know that they help us. So now I'm going to use this getRandomColor function in another function called createDiv, which is using another function called createElement that comes from the document that's going to create me a div. I don't really know how that works. Honestly, I don't. I don't understand what kind of magic they do behind the scenes in the browser. But I know I can use it to do this. And this is really important. This is called declarative programming. This is programming with functions, composing with functions. This is understanding what's known as an API and utilizing it to do interesting things. So, and as you progress, you'll learn all these things. Window.innerwidth. We'll actually talk about that in a later video. But what I know right now is I can say const my div equals create div, and I know I can say document.body.append child my div. And I know, and I hope anyway that what's going to happen is I'm going to see a div on the screen. And I can't find my, where's my web browser? There's my page. And, oh, where'd it go? It was there just a second ago. Try again. Save this. Let's see if it's working. There it is. It's right there. Hi there. There's my text. There's my random color. And I think that's kind of nice and kind of nifty. Now, I'm also using a little bit of CSS that's in here. That's helping because I'm appending this class name to this. And I want to say, if people want to learn more about CSS, holler at me in the comments. I'm happy to make some videos about CSS. These are functions. Functions are really neat, and I'm going to leave you with one other little like mind melter thing here, because functions can be not only, this is usually how we see functions, but there's another thing that's really neat and very commonly seen in functions, which is that we can take functions and we can pass them into other functions, and that's really powerful part of JavaScript. So what I could do is something like this, where I can write a function that's going to take in, let's call it, let's call this a function. Okay, and we'll pass that in. Should have thought about this a little more because those both have the same name. So this F here feels just a little bit too vague to me. So I can write a function called my weird function. It's going to take in a function, and it's going to, and we can honestly just, we could take in that function and we could have it log just like hi. But we can, so this is just going to, if I invoke my weird function here, and I need to, we'll just say my weird function, and we'll say, just like that. It's gonna take in a function called a function, and it's gonna log some value, and a function is gonna take in a value actually. So now we can see this, and we'll see my weird function is not defined. What happened? My weird function, and a is not defined. Where are we at here? My weird function a, right? This has to be 10. There we go. Now, func is not a function at my weird function. Func is not a function at my weird function. Oh, right, because this is being invoked. So I need to just do this and this. And I had this really nice example, but I thought I would make it sort of blow it up, and now I did. And now, but we can see that we pass in this function called a function, and we do something with it in my weird function. So you'll see this a lot. This is called a callback function, and we can actually pass this in like this. And that's just going to log hi. So I'm going to call my weird function. It's going to pass in a function, and it's going to say hi. Oh, there we go. And so that's that val. My bad. And we'll just log val. Yeah, I had it right all along. So there we go. So now we're going to log hi. So we're passing in this function right here, and it's logging hi. And we can pass in, sorry, I just made that, I fixed it and then I unfixed it because I was passing in. So here we go, we're gonna pass in val and console.log val, and we can say const val equals hi. And so we get hi. So we just have to make sure in JavaScript, and you can see it's also challenging for me even when I'm making a video, and I think I'm going to keep this. that we have to make sure the scope of our variables is available wherever we're operating. And we don't want them to be available outside of where we're operating. But I want to go back and I want to show you something kind of nifty here. Before I go, we're going to replace this with what I had originally written. So now here we're doing something a little more elaborate. You see, my weird function is a function that returns a function that returns a function. Oh, no. My weird function is a function that returns a function that returns the output of this function. So we're going to take in a function here. We're going to take in a value here. And we're going to return the value of this. We're going to pass that into the function. We'll pass the function in. We'll pass a value in. We pass the value into here, and we pass the function into here, and then the invocation of the function is going to take this value and log it to the console. And it works. And all kinds of shenanigans result from this sort of a thing. What just happened? 52 is undefined. My weird func10 console.log func equals val f of a, taking in a. Let me just see here. Oh yeah, you know what? The reason why that's undefined is because the console.log is right there. Console.log actually returns undefined, and that's commonly known as a side effect. So there we go, we get the value. And we're going to talk a little bit more maybe about this notion of side effects, but console.log will always return. It doesn't actually return anything, which is kind of neat. All right, I think that was helpful, I hope. So let me leave you with one more thing here. You can write in JavaScript, you can write stuff like this. And this. As a result of what I was talking about. Both those don't do anything. They just return 0, but they sure are cool, aren't they? And those both come from a book that I really like. I'll post a link in the, what do we call those, liner notes? They come from a book called JavaScript Allongé. And I it's been a really influential book to me. Take a look at it when you get a chance. It's really interesting. All right. Have a good one. In the next video, I want to talk about objects and this. Two of the most confusing things in JavaScript.